What if I told you that in the dead of night, without warning, the United States launched one of the most precise, most silent military strikes in history? No sirens, no invasions, just silence, followed by fire. 3 of Iran's most fortified nuclear sites, gone. But why? Why now? And what really happened in those 25 minutes? Stay with me, because the real story might just be buried beneath 200 feet of earth and truth. They called it Operation Midnight Hammer, a name right out of a spy thriller, except this one was real. 125 aircraft, including some of the deadliest bombers in existence, were already in the sky before the world even noticed. They weren't going in loud, they were going in invisible, because the targets weren't just buildings, they were buried fortresses. And they held more than uranium. They held leverage, secrets, power. The plan was brilliant. While some aircraft headed west across the Pacific as decoys, 7 B-2 Spirit bombers took the real path, slicing toward Iran, cloaked in silence. Deception was key. Confuse enemy radar, scatter their guesses. This wasn't just warfare, it was chess, played at 50,000 feet. 18 hours in the sky, and then the first strike didn't come from the air, it came from the sea. A U.S. submarine lurking in the shadows of the Arabian Sea launched 24 Tomahawk cruise missiles. Each one shrieked silently through the night sky aimed at Isfahan. By the time they landed, the world still hadn't caught on. Then came the real hammer. Fordo, Iran's most secure nuclear facility, built deep into a mountain. And from the belly of a B-2 bomber, dropped 2 of the most terrifying bombs in the U.S. arsenal. The massive ordnance penetrators. 30,000 pounds of steel and explosive force, enough to crack rock, concrete, and secrets wide open. Now here's the catch, and it's a big one. Fordo is so deep, experts say even those massive bunker busters might not reach the core. So, was this just a symbolic strike? Or is something even deeper, even darker, going on behind the scenes? Some believe the real objective was never destruction, but distraction. Stay with me, because the final scenes in this story, they might just flip everything you thought you knew. All 3 sites, Fordo, Natanz, Isfahan, were hit within just 25 minutes. No warning, no dogfights, no activated air defenses. Iran's skies stayed silent, and by the time they looked up, the bombers were already gone, invisible shadows returning home. No Iranian fighters scrambled, no anti-air missiles launched. Was it overconfidence? Was it confusion? Or was it something else? Because silence like this doesn't come cheap or without questions. And Tehran, they weren't silent for long. The U.S. insists this wasn't about regime change. We didn't strike people, only infrastructure, said the Secretary of Defense. But striking a nation's nuclear core, that's not just a message, it's a challenge. And challenges demand responses. Back in Washington, Trump confirmed it publicly. Alongside him, the Vice President, the Defense Secretary, and the Secretary of State. The message was clear. This wasn't just a strike, it was a signal. But to whom and for what purpose? Keep watching. The deeper answers begin now. Satellite images the next day showed strange patterns, 6 fresh craters at Fordo. But they weren't explosions as you'd expect. No massive surface blasts, just perfect, clean impact points, like something burrowed deep and detonated inside. But if the goal was destruction, why hide the scars? Fordo isn't just concrete and centrifuges, it's a maze, deeper underground than the English Channel Tunnel. It was built for one purpose, survive anything. But now experts ask, was there something down there the world was never meant to see? The bomb dropped on Fordo wasn't just any weapon. It was the GBU-57, the massive ordnance penetrator. Weighing 30,000 pounds, it's built to smash through 60 feet of concrete or 200 feet of rock, and then detonate. But it's never been used in real combat until now. Here's where things get strange. Iran says they had already evacuated those nuclear sites. No uranium, no equipment, just empty tunnels. But how did they know? Days, maybe weeks, before. For weeks, Iran had warned, any strike will be met with fire. Yet, the night of the attack, no fire came. But less than 12 hours later, Tel Aviv and Haifa were hit with missiles. Was this retaliation or the second act of a larger play? Israel says it was fully coordinated with the US. Their radar systems, intel, and digital support played a silent role. But behind closed doors, some claim they were more than just observers. Some believe Israel helped pick the targets and may have even leaked locations. Trump called it a success. He said, "We didn't target people, only infrastructure." But he also warned, there are many targets left. Was that diplomacy or a threat? World leaders scrambled. The UK said the strike was to alleviate grave threats. Russia accused the US of starting a new war. And Saudi Arabia, torn between allies, simply called for calm. But calm doesn't last long when the target is nuclear. To the world, the US showed dominance, but perception isn't always reality. Iran didn't lose scientists, didn't lose uranium. So what was the true goal, and who really won? So here's the question nobody wants to ask. Was this attack meant to succeed or to provoke? Because behind every missile is a motive, and sometimes the loudest explosions are meant to hide the quietest truths. We're just getting started. In Tehran's war rooms, 3 options were laid out. 1, do nothing, appear weak. 2, strike hard, risk all, out war. 3, wait, and strike when no one expects it. But behind those choices, a nation humiliated and leaders who don't forget. This wasn't just a physical strike, it was psychological warfare, a calculated show of dominance. The US wanted to rattle Iran, but in doing so, they may have awakened something more dangerous: restraint with revenge. Iran has one wild card: swarm warfare. Hundreds of drones, fast boats, and hidden launchers ready to strike US bases or even Navy warships, and they've practiced it before, in silence. This didn't start with the US. On June 13th, Israel launched a surprise attack on dozens of Iranian sites. Tehran responded with rockets. The air war didn't cool. It escalated. America simply joined at full speed. On the campaign trail, Trump vowed to end endless wars. No more Middle East entanglements, he said. Yet here we are, stealth bombers, submarines, and standoffs. What changed? And who changed his mind? Look, rumors swirl of a leak, that someone tipped off Iran days before the strike, that they cleared out the sites just in time. If true, it means someone inside knew and didn't want the attack to succeed. Many US lawmakers say they weren't warned, that the president acted alone. Some call it strength, others, they call it unconstitutional. Who really has the power to declare war? No nuclear leak, no fallout, so say Saudi Arabia and the IAEA. But if nothing dangerous was released, what exactly was stored there? And what did the US really destroy? Some Americans cheered, others feared a new war. Online, the debate raged. Was this justice or escalation? In coffee shops, headlines. In classrooms, questions. And in living rooms, silence. This is more than a mission report. It's a moment in history. And what it leads to depends on what we choose to believe. Because every war starts with a reason. And sometimes that reason is a story too perfect to question. For 6 hours, nothing. No tweets, no press, no sirens, just silence. And then, at 02:43 a.m., something changed. It wasn't sound, it was the feeling of the world holding its breath. Just hours after the US strike, the skies over Israel lit up. Missiles slammed into Tel Aviv and Haifa. 86 injured, no warning. This wasn't just retaliation, it was a signal. We're not finished. Markets dipped, oil prices surged, embassies tightened security, set theme in, because when two giants clash, everyone feels the quake. Whispers say one of the sites held something more than uranium. A digital vault, hard drives, intercepted data, something encrypted. Did the US want to destroy weapons or secrets? The UN convened. Russia called it provocation. China warned of destabilization, but all eyes turned not to Iran, but to what the US would do next. Satellite images stopped just after the blast. No live coverage, no drone footage. What happened between 1905 and 1935 Eastern Time remains unknown. Some believe this wasn't about taking out threats. It was a message written in fire. To Iran, to North Korea, to every nation hiding power underground. Iran's Air Force never launched. Fighter jets sat idle on the tarmac. Some say radar was blinded. Others, that orders never came. Why? Israel wasn't the only ally. Sources point to digital support from the UK, tracking, targeting, even communications jamming. If true, this was bigger than just America. Officials say the situation is stable, but stable doesn't mean safe. And as Iran plots its next move, time is running out, and nobody knows for what. They say the calm always comes before the storm, but this might be the silence before the twist. Because one leak, one strike, one decision could change everything. In a quiet suburb of Haifa, an 8-year-old girl paints a picture. She draws a plane and writes, "This one didn't drop anything." Her father smiles. He doesn't tell her what happened last night. How do you explain a war drawn in crayons? Back-channel talks had begun, but they're not about peace. They're about delay. Each side waits for the other to blink. But in the silence between missiles, no one is truly winning. North Korea watches, Pakistan watches. Even allies wonder, if Iran wasn't safe, who is? The strike may have shattered bunkers, but it also shattered the illusion of distance. At a US base in Kuwait, a soldier cleans his rifle. Not because he was told to, but because he needs to feel ready. If it's going to happen, he mutters, I'd rather see it coming. Analysts believe Iran may not retaliate, yet. They'll wait. Wait until the US relaxes, wait until it stings. They don't want headlines, they want surprise. Between 1905 and 1935, no footage, no comms, no satellite pings. What happened during that time? Some say an extraction, others say a message was delivered, not to Iran, but to someone hidden deep inside. Behind every government is a smaller one, made of whispers. Some say this entire mission wasn't planned in months, but years, by people we never vote for. In all this noise, we forgot them. The scientists, the janitors, the farmers nearby. They weren't soldiers, but they live in war now. Because when giants fight, it's the ground that suffers. Somewhere in DC, a new mission plan sits on a screen, unapproved, unsent, but ready. And it has one word in bold: contingents. Everyone is waiting, leaders, pilots, people like you. The war hasn't escalated, but it hasn't ended either. And sometimes silence is just the space between chapters. The Pentagon released final damage assessments. Fordo, collapsed. Natanz, partially disabled. Isfahan, inaccessible. But in the margins of the report, one word repeated: unverified. In Iran, a late-night broadcast: we have survived, we are strong. No mention of casualties, no mention of what was lost. But the host's eyes, they told a different story. In Israel, emergency meetings went dark. No reporters, no quotes, only one leaked line: we didn't expect it to go this far. In New York, in Dallas, in Portland, people marched. Some for strength, some for peace, some just wanted the truth. But no one felt in control. 4 days later, Trump stood alone. No applause, no theatrics, only a microphone, a flag, and this line: this was our last warning, not to Iran, to the world. Sources confirm all 3 Iranian sites were emptied days before impact. So what was inside those bunkers before? And where is it now? No one is answering. Maybe they never will. Whispers now talk of a missing archive, a digital vault extracted before the strikes. Not weapons, but decades of classified data. If that's true, then the bombings were just cover. A phone rang in Tehran at 2:17 a.m. The recipient was not military, not political, just a man who held a secret no one else could. He listened and said only, "It's done." Not every cost can be counted in rubble. It lives in silence, in anxiety, in the fear that it's not over, only paused. We wonder when the next update comes, and pray we never need one. But what if this was never meant for Iran? What if the real message was to someone else, hidden in plain sight, an essential show of force, a display of reach to remind not just enemies but every country, what happens if you're next? 3 sites bombed, 1 war averted or just delayed, but the dozens of questions, millions watching. But here's the part no one saw coming. Because while the world watched Iran, the next operation had already begun, 2,000 miles east, underground. For more such exciting in-depth analysis, subscribe to Captain Current.